Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Amplify Your Business. Today, we're going to be talking to Andrew Kinnear. Andrew has a business called Yellofruit, and this is a very unique spin on ice cream. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks so much, Lance.
Great to be here. Yeah, thank you for joining us here today. And tell me a little bit about Yellofruit. What is this product that looks absolutely delicious, and I see a whole pile of reviews of people loving it on your website and in Google My Business as well. So tell me a bit more.
Well, Yellowfruit is it's like ice cream, but it's better. I would say we're all in a great category. So very different, right? So a banana dessert is just so different from a cashew dessert, which is very different from an almond dessert. But we all share this great opportunity, and that is being plant-based, being non-dairy, being in a category of ice creams that are meeting the needs of a specific audience of people. So there are people who shop in grocery stores in that specific section, and they're looking for an ice cream that meets those needs. And so we're trying to meet those needs. Not everyone likes coconut, and so they might try cashew or banana. And so being, one of very few banana frozen products on the market, and having a product that comes in 3 great flavors, we've sort of carved out our little niche, our little corner of that non-dairy category.
And so when did this all start then? You said that you must have been doing some experimentation in the kitchen for your wife and the kids. And so
this was a few years ago. So so my twins are 8 now, and when they were babies, when they were maybe 1 or 2, we were experimenting at home, just throwing frozen bananas into the food processor, which a lot of parents do. Because banana seems to be that like amazing food that all babies love, which is great.
Yeah.
And we'd throw in some strawberries or some cinnamon or some other things and really make some delicious frozen desserts. And all it takes is a spark and of an idea, and we sort of started chatting about how could this be a product that you find at the grocery store. Now the reality is there's a lot of science that goes into making ice cream. Very small ice crystals, air, sugars to depress freezing point, protein, fat. There's a lot of science. It's very complicated. But what's sort of cool, I guess, about dairy is that dairy has almost all that figured out, right? Milk comes with sugar and protein and fat and the liquids and the all of the stuff that you need to make ice cream comes in cream, which is sort of how it went that way. So when you want to make a product that is like ice cream, you have to find a plant-based version of all those things. So we had to find plant-based equivalents for all of those things, which we did by working with food scientists and experts. I'm not a food scientist at all. We started with the stuff at home, and then we had to find the experts to help us take this idea kind of to the next level.
So how long was that process from idea to now you have something that's, commerciable?
Well, I go the other way. So we launched the product on store shelves in April of 2019. We were selling it in the fall of 2018, right? We had a prototype and a sell sheet, and we were selling it in the grocery stores for a launch in the spring. We had probably spent the 2 years prior to that doing testing, prototyping, raising money, developing the brand, talking to different experts, but also just talking to other business owners, learning, and at the same time, like working other jobs. My wife was home with our kids at that time, but I was working. So you don't really. It doesn't happen all at once, but I would say there was, a solid 3 years worth of, idea to store shelves. But the work really ramps up closer to the end once, a store has said yes, you've designed packaging, you're printing packaging. We use a co-manufacturer, so we didn't build a factory or anything like that. We use a co-manufacturer to make the product. So all of those sorts of things kind of come together. And then if everything goes well, you launch. And so we launched into about 100 stores in our first month because we got a yes from Freshco very early on.
Excellent.
So, so we launched into about 100 stores in that April, another probably 50 by May. By Canada Day, we were in about 400. By the end of the summer, we were in maybe 600. And then we just sort of kept adding stores from there.
So what lessons there in product development, product ideation, all of that? How did that go, and what kind of lessons did you pull out of that other people who maybe are toying with the idea of some other food product, to save them some of the headache that you guys may be experiencing?
So we had never really run our own business. I had done a consulting business, but that's sort of like one guy and time, and it was very straightforward. But now it's like invoicing and billing and taxes and just a lot more. So running a business, there was lessons learned there. And I would say in that bucket, I would say that you need to, get great help, right? So find an accountant that you can connect with, because early on, there might not be like huge challenges from an accounting point of view, but having someone that you can explain it to and have them explain back what they need to help you. And, so relationships become really important. Do you need to have a lawyer on retainer? No, but you should have like a number for someone that you can call. So little things like that, like knowing how to run a business, you don't have to know, but learning those things early on, I think, were great lessons.
Yep.
Because I had been in marketing my whole career, there were certainly new things that I'm always trying to learn in the idea of like building the brand and like communicating with customers. But the lessons that we were learning there were more like functional lessons, like how do you run a great campaign on Instagram? It wasn't what do you say? So those sorts of lessons were I would say maybe not as impactful because of my own personal history.
Yeah.
But then because we are not food scientists, we had never run a food business, the biggest lessons I think came out of the product side of things. So those are things like, I'll start with things like ingredient, like the product development itself, right? So if you're starting a food business, you have to decide like what hill are you going to die on? So when we first started, we were like, this is going to be great for kids and it's going to have no sugar and it's going to be organic and it's going to, we were trying to be everything.
Yeah.
What we realized was, well, actually it's more important to us that it scoops like ice cream and makes everyone happy than doesn't have sugar, because people are going to eat sugar. So what if we just pick a great sugar and then have a better product? So there's like compromises like that, for example, that will come up all the time on every, aspect of your product. You have to know which ones you're going to fight for and which ones you're going to, just take sort of a business approach to and maybe compromise on, not in a bad way, but in a way that will advance. Because you can get paralyzed by not making a decision and just sitting around and being like, well, I guess we'll just test it out or do some research, or, you got to get to shelf, right?
Yeah.
So when you start so this is maybe another lesson. When you start spending money on this business that you have decided you're going to start, you're committed. And if you slow down, not the spending of the money, but if you slow down the business because you want to take it slow, you could miss a window. Timing is very important. You can miss an opportunity. The people you're talking to could change jobs. And then what you thought was going to be one thing is not a thing. So there's timing and momentum that I think go into the decision-making that you make. You want to not miss those opportunities, if that makes sense.
Now, one of the things I'd like to dig into a little bit deeper too is around that first order that you received, the massive order that you received when you're in now 100 stores, was it that you said, or 60 stores right off the start?
So that first month we went into about 100 stores. It was like
stores.
88 Freshcos.
Yeah.
Right?
So that moment, is that like, yes, we did it, to holy shit, how do we deliver on this?
It was, so for us, we had, maybe it was a yay. It was a, wow, that's amazing. It was a tiny bit anticlimactic for that one because we had already gotten a yes from Loblaws, but for a future launch. So we got our yes. They said, we're going to launch in Canada Day. So we were already high from that. We were like, that's amazing. So we were moving forward with production. And then we got the yes from Freshco, and they were like, but we want it in April. So then it's sort of like, okay, that's extra amazing. And also, okay, now we have to not really change anything because we had already planned to do our scale production run. That was maybe back to the lessons. Don't spend a bunch of money making product that you haven't sold yet. So our kind of maybe trick or hack to this was, I was selling the idea of a launch. We're going to launch in the spring. So in the fall, in October, I'm letting you taste a prototype. I'm showing you some Photoshop, and I'm saying we're going to launch in April. And that's because those buyers need, they need lots of lead time to make those decisions and change planograms and do whatever they're going to do. So if they're going to get convinced, that's great, but then they need enough time to make it all work out. And I didn't want to have inventory just sitting in a freezer, waiting for that. Yes, that doesn't make sense. So what we did was we sold the dream. And then once we got the commitment, then we scaled up.
So how does one sell the dream to Loblaws? Are you going in there with some samples? Are you just doing a Zoom conversation? What is the process?
This is way before Zoom. So nobody cared about Zoom back in 2018, 2019. I'm sure Zoom existed, but we're not doing video calls. No, this was an in-person meeting. So I had been introduced through my network, friend of a friend, makes a connection. Eventually you get the meeting and they know what it's for and you know what it's for. And so I was in there, I made a presentation. I had samples in plain packaging. I was making a presentation to the category director for natural foods in the market division, right? Lots of divisions, as well as a couple of people that worked with that person, just so that there was kind of more people to try it. And, and I'm not sure if this is how things even happen right now, just because I'm sure everything changed. Now, even the last little while, it's been send us your sample and we'll talk to you. So it's changed a lot, but back then it was very much I've got my laptop, I've got some pictures. Here's what we're doing from a marketing point of view. Here's what, the product benefits. And I was new to selling that idea. But it was, it was very exciting. And then, they tasted it. They're like, oh, I think I like the strawberry best. What do you like, Steve? Oh, I like the chocolate best. And it's very friendly and conversational. And then everyone kind of takes it back and thinks, okay, well, when are we going to launch? What does distribution look like? What warehouses? Oh, you're not set up for this. We got to set you up for that. You need this paperwork done. Talk to the distribution. It starts to get very complicated from there. Find good partners and understand what makes a good partner and how you can be a good partner. So we had a great distribution partner who had worked in ice cream for years, knew everybody. So that was good for us in Ontario because that's sort of regionally where we were going to grow from. But also, they knew how the system worked. They knew where the warehouses were. They had dealt with all the people. So that was great. So that helped us to learn, but not at the expense of the business. We were learning on the backs of others. Yeah. There's probably a famous quote about that, right? Learning from other people's mistakes.
One thing that you mentioned there that I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into is you said, find great partners, but also learn how to be a good partner. Can you expand upon the being a good partner piece? Sure.
So what I try to do in all the businesses that I'm in is add a layer of I don't know if this is the right term, but like business empathy. So understand what are the challenges that my distributor faces day by day, what makes their life hell, what is great for them, and then take that into account when I'm running my business, because I know if they're happy, then that will translate into my business success as well. But that empathy is going to be totally different depending on the partner, right? So our manufacturing partner, they manufacture other stuff too. they also face labor shortages, but in their case, the empathy is like storage. They don't have a lot of room on site to keep my 10 pallets of packaging because I wanted to buy lots to get a good deal. So it's like, okay, so we have to find storage, but it has to be easy for them. So little things like that and understanding their challenges allowed me to then maintain great relationships with them, that's critical. But then also, it sort of evolves everyone's business and makes everybody happy.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a number of entrepreneurs who have told me stories about how, oh, my co-packer did XYZ, or my distributor did XYZ, or the retailer is saying XYZ. And the thing that I take from that sometimes is like, well, I mean, that's their business. Like they're in that business. Why aren't you trying to make that work out for them? And so I think knowing the more I know about the people I work with, not in like a weird personal way, but like the more I understand their business, the challenges with trucks, there's a topical thing, trucking and, freight. Just the more that I learn about freight, the better customer I can be to a freight company, for example. So it sort of cuts both ways too, because often you're like, okay, but I do need help. I need you to take this thing from A to B, and I need it to not be $10,000 or whatever it is. Like sometimes you actually you do need, but they're way more willing to help an entrepreneur if that entrepreneur is empathetic and has helped them.
So let's fast forward then from that first order to the beginning of COVID. So
Yes.
Any pivots in the business that you guys had to make that, again, some lessons that maybe were learned around that period of time, and then what are you doing now, essentially, I guess. So
yeah,
walk me through
so
that.
yeah, COVID was an interesting one for us. So our biggest challenge with COVID was awareness and trial. So we were really, really, really lucky that we were already in lots of grocery stores, because I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, we were about to launch and then the buyer canceled all the meetings because of the pandemic. And it's like, okay, so you're not on shelf. You've pivoted to direct to consumer or whatever. That would never have worked for us. We can't ship ice cream, effectively direct to consumer. So thank goodness we were already in grocery stores. But the challenge for us to maintain, our business and our growth was we need new people to hear it. We need anybody to hear about our brand, think that it might meet their needs, and maybe give it a try, right? So awareness and trial go hand in hand together, and
especially for a new category, right? Because I mean,
it's
I'm not aware.
Niche category, niche product in a very small market, right? This is not ice cream. This is non-dairy ice cream, banana-based non-dairy. So this is like niche of a niche.
Yes, exactly.
And the best way for us to convince people is literally for me to put a spoon in your mouth and you go, wow, that tastes great. Yes. So up until until COVID hit, our best way of getting awareness and trial was events and sampling and things where I can pop a tent somewhere and give out mouthfuls, right? Or a tray, the Royal Winter Fair, where 50,000 people walk by and take a spoonful. Those were fantastic for us because they put the Yellowfruit name into a lot of people's heads, which was great. They let people try multiple flavors, like, oh, I don't really like the chocolate. Oh, wow, but I do love the strawberry, or vice versa. It allows people to find their favorite, right? And so on a grocery store shelf, without any sampling, you might think, oh, I've heard of this thing, but am I going to like the chocolate? Am I going to like the mango? Am I going to like the strawberry? You don't know. And so sampling became our challenge. And so that was, I would say, to answer your question, the pivot that we made was, okay, we need people to know about, care about, try our product, and we're wearing masks, we're out. Every store is, saying no sampling, no events over 10 people, right? So the lockdown just like squashed all that. So we needed a new approach. So So the idea with Freebury was, like I was saying, we needed to punch above our weight. We needed to get this reach that we maybe couldn't afford. So what I came up with was, what if we could get other brands who are in a similar situation, right? They need awareness and trial. They've had the same grocery store situation. What if we could all get together in one virtual place, since we can't all set up at a farmer's market, maybe a digital place? And what if we could get some other organizations, whether it's government, trade, industry, other businesses, but not competitors, supporting businesses to help get that reach? So the idea with Freebury is it's 1 month, right? It's in the month of February. So from the 1st to the 28th, consumers land on this page, freebury.ca, and on this page they can browse all these different small businesses that have offers, but they're browsing brands and offers and makers and businesses and manufacturers that they may not have ever seen otherwise. So the idea is they're being driven here because they're users of the Reby flyer app, or they're on cattle getting rebates, or they're agents for Field Agent, or they're samplers with Sampler, or they're, whatever they are, they're out there. They hear about Freebury, they come to the platform, and they discover a brand that they've never heard of. It doesn't cost that brand anything. They're just on the platform. And so for me, wearing my Yellowfruit hat, I'm thinking, this is my opportunity to get eyeballs that I wouldn't normally pay for. Why is it good for the brand? We just talked about that, eyeballs and reach. Trial becomes like, well, you need something to give to these consumers. So trial becomes, how about a buy one, get one free? Or how about a free sample of my, special skin cream? Or here's a small container of quinoa that we make here in Ontario. Whatever it is, these participating brands create an offer and offer it to the consumer.
Okay, so what does the future hold then for Yellowfruit now that, hopefully we're coming out of the pandemic? We are in, this is being filmed at the beginning of February, so spring's right around the corner, which I would imagine is the big season for
spring's our biggest time of the year, where we start to add, we add new stores, we add back in any stores that have sort of dropped off from the fall, maybe because of low volume. Our big deals and offers start to launch with some of our bigger retailers, and we get rolling with sort of springtime and summertime marketing plans to reach consumers. Our core business is grocery retail, so you're still, for the most part, you might try our brand. It might be a spoonful at an event. It might be one of our little tiny tubs that you buy a box of for a party. But the core business is still pints from the grocery store.
Yeah. Now here's a personal request, because the last time that I was in a marble slab, and it's been quite a while since I've been in those types of retailers who are focused just on ice cream, but I haven't found any that were plant-based. So I always get left out of that experience, because you go in there with the family and everybody's having their beautiful ice creams, creamy ice creams, and so on. So is that a strategy of yours at all, to get into some of those types of locations that are purveyors of ice cream?
Yeah, I mean, I won't rule it out, because as we all know, it's always good to have options. Our core business is grocery. Scoop shops and food service are certainly the strategy of a lot of artisan brands, right? If you're hand making things, you might sell a big 11-liter tub to a scoop shop, or you have your own scoop shop, and that's how you get business and that sort of thing. Our strategy is so different from that, really. Like our production runs for these pints are to get it into grocery stores. And so it's less likely that you'll see a Yellowfruit in a scoop shop, just because of the nature of kind of how we run our business. Now, that's not to say that from a trend point of view, plant-based and vegan brands of ice cream are are growing like crazy. So
Yeah.
I think this summer, fingers crossed that scoop shops will actually be open and everybody will be healthy. I think this summer you'll see a lot more options, dairy-free options, which I know doesn't apply to you, but totally vegan, plant-based options are certainly growing. So from a trend point of view, I think you'll start to see it.
My last question, and that is around just the growth of that category. So, like you said, it seems like I'm seeing a lot more of the vegan style plant-based products in the stores, including the ice cream category. And so, as this starts to get the attention of some of the larger, more established national brands, is that a risk to your business? And if so, how are you mitigating that risk?
Well, the big players, Nestle and Unilever and others, all have non-dairy options, sub brands, acquisitions. So certainly they're already very much playing in the space. I think the risk would be like if one of those guys decided that they needed our tiny slice of the pie and made a banana-based frozen dessert, then we'd be done at that point. It would be pretty tough to compete just from a costs and marketing power point of view. I think their focus is more on capturing total audience and so you see a lot of innovation from the big guys where they're taking brands that they already have and just they're just launching flavor after new flavor after new flavor. That's sort of been their strategy. But I would say from a total category size point of view, we've seen ice cream slowly decline over the last few years. Percentage wise, non-dairy or plant-based is growing, but it's growing in a slightly declining total category. So it's tough to say that, it's tough to guess what anyone is going to do, but I think there has been a lot of focus on core businesses, like driving their most profitable products, and then layer that with COVID. SKU rationalization has been a big focus as well for a lot of brands that have, if you've got 20 SKUs and you can just like dump 5 of them and introduce 2 more and then make what you've got more profitable, like those kind of strategies where you're sort of messing around with that, especially pricing with inflation. These businesses can cut costs, they can raise prices, they can do a lot because of just the environment that our economy is facing and everyone's facing.
So how does that impact your planning? How do you pull that into your business strategy and so on? Or do you at all? Like that's
absolutely I do. So in 2019, when I thought everything was rosy and golden, I was gearing up for a US expansion. I was talking to US retailers. I was looking at export related things, and now it's like no way, not a chance. It just does not fit with our business strategy right now, for a number of reasons. So instead, our focus becomes, well, we're barely across the country, just barely. Let's work on Canada. Let's grow profitably in Canada. Let's get the distribution we want. And then layer onto that, let's get the velocity we want. Let's get the repeat purchases. Let's get customers who love us to buy us more often, which are, those are kind of basic things. Those are the fundamentals, but sometimes they get lost in the, 100 things that a small business owner needs to care about. I try to put my focus hat on, and there's the hat again, and think like, okay, sell more ice cream, sell more Yellofruit. How do I sell more Yellofruit? And that helps to guide, like, okay, well, we're not going to do that thing. That's a distraction. We're not going to do this other thing. That doesn't make sense. Let's do this because it's going to sell more Yellofruit. So I think focus is probably, really, really important for small businesses. Pick a lane, right? Don't get distracted by too many things. Back to your question about lessons learned, it's really easy to get distracted by shiny things and have an idea and like, oh, maybe this will fit in the business, and we've already got all this stuff going. We could just launch it's like, no, folks, you've launched 3 products. Why are you trying to launch another whole line of products? Like, make the 3 that you have successful, add a flavor, maybe, that kind of focus. So I have to do that. That's more like a personal learning, a personal, like a personality approach to how I do business.
Yeah.
But focusing on the core opportunity, I think, is really important.
So it sounds to me like one of the potential benefits of COVID for your business is that it forced you to focus more. Is that fair to say then, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to not be forced to do anything, but no, I think the benefits for us certainly were that we were already in grocery stores, and that's, when people locked down everything, they still had to eat, right? They still had to buy in grocery stores. So that was an advantage for us. But it was a disadvantage for us because we were not as well known as some bigger companies. And so we couldn't just spend our way out of the pandemic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We really had to get creative. And so we were doing, stuff like February and other things.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing the story, Andrew, and all the lessons that you've had along the way. You've been very transparent with it and shared a lot. And so I know our audience is going to really enjoy this episode. We're going to learn a lot from it. And I just really appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me about it. And so for those who want to, try some Yellowfruit ice cream, what do you think is the best way for them to do that then?
The first thing I would do is go to yellowfruit.com and read up about us and take a look at the pictures, the pretty photography of the delicious 3 flavors that we have: Holly's favorite mango, Eddie's favorite chocolate, and Monty's favorite strawberry. Those are my 3 kids. We named the products after our kids.
Yeah.
And, decide what you want to try first. And then maybe if you're listening to this and it's still February, head over to February, get a BOGO coupon, and try 2 for the price of 1. I think that's probably a good approach to trying a new thing.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. I think that's a fantastic offer for everybody. And this episode will be released in February. And so people will have a certain amount of time there, a bit of a window where they'll be able to get in on that deal. So thank you again. Really appreciate the time that you've taken today with us. And for those of you who like this episode and want to watch some other episodes where we talk to other entrepreneurs about their stories and their businesses, head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca. And until next time, stay safe, everybody.